Hello everybody and welcome back to another episode of Microsoft Flight Simulator. In today's episode, I'm going to give you guys my top 10 freeware aircraft or aircraft improvements. So stick around guys, because hopefully you'll find an aircraft that you enjoy. If you are interested in acquiring any of my Overkills tutorial guides for Microsoft Flight Simulator, please consider joining me on Patreon. Patreon subscribers level tier 2 and above have access to all of my guides, as well as any future updates and future guides that will be coming down the road. Link to Patreon can be found in the description below. All right, so the first aircraft on our list, and this is in no particular order, is the Beech King Air 350i from JD's Improvement Mod. Now, the reason why I made sure to throw this one on here is that the 350i in its default state, in my opinion, is lacking a lot. And JD finally took it upon himself and made an amazing modification for everything from flight model and performance changes, as well as providing customization options, everything from backlighting to seat textures and the dash panels. And it really took the 350i and brought it up to an aircraft that is fun to fly. I really enjoy it. I hope that he continues to work on it. The latest release was in March of 2022, so just at the beginning of this month. So it's continuing to get some work done on it. You can see the basics that was done here. The UA's lighting mod is also included in this, and that is huge. And the reason why that's huge is because the lighting mod by UA is absolutely fantastic. It really makes a huge difference in both the quality and overall illumination provided by the aircraft lighting. And these are all for the external lights as I'm speaking to that. But the 350i with the improvement mod really came to life, and it's really been a fun aircraft to learn. I've been messing around with it off and on between segments, of doing the recordings and when I have my free time, and I'm preparing to get it and the Cessna 208 ready to start bringing to the channel more and more, and I would never have done so without these improvement mods. So thank you so much to JD and his hard work, and I hope that work continues. Next up on our list is the Salty 747 mod. The 747 has to be one of the most iconic aircraft to ever hit the skies. And Salty, and if it's just one, I don't know if it's one person or a team, but has really taken this modification and brought the 747 to life. When we first launched with Microsoft Flight Simulator and had the 747 available, it was garbage. Like, you just have to call it as it is. It was just a terrible aircraft. 80% of it wasn't modeled. If it was modeled, it wasn't modeled correctly. And much like the FlyByWire team did and Heavy Division did with the 787 and the A320X, Salty has done the same thing with the 747 and really brought the aircraft to life. Obviously, it still has a long way to go. This has got to be a very huge undertaking, and I don't think that it's a very large team that comes with Salty. So hats off, and thank you so much for all the continued effort. And you can actually see this must be a team because you've got quite a few different people submitting changes here. But it has really made a huge difference with the 747 and made it truly fun to fly. This is what actually inspired me to do a guide on the 747, and it's just about time to get back after it and make some changes. The autopilot, as you can see here, first thing that steps up here, autopilot redesign and VNAV. So we're going to have to definitely dive into the guide again. But it really just changed the game for the 747 and made it a very cool aircraft to fly. It was always one of my favorite, even from the back of the days of P3D. It was one of the first aircraft that I ever bought from PMDG, just because, you had to have the Queen of the Skies. She's pretty much retired almost around the globe here. There are a few still left flying, but she's definitely starting to disappear. And so it's really nice to have it available in the simulation, and with all the functionality provided by this mod, really enhanced the experience of flying the 747. So thank you again to Salty and the team for continuing the work on this. Definitely a recommendation that had to make the top 10 list. Which brings us to another one, and that is the Heavy Division 787 modification. Now, this is made primarily, from what I can tell, some nav display changes, as well as primarily with the FMC. But again, some major changes that were provided to the aircraft that make it much more enjoyable to fly. Now, from what I can tell with the limited information that I have, it still has a long way to go as far as, being a, what you would call a higher fidelity version of the aircraft. But if the 787 is an aircraft you want to fly, don't fly without this mod, because it definitely makes some very, very major and very noticeable quality of life changes, and as well as feature changes to the aircraft that, again, bring it just a little bit closer to what you would expect to see from a real world 787. Now, that's, again, the only comparison that I have between the two. I've never flown a 787, but is from the default version to using the heavy division mod. The changes in the performance of the aircraft are very, very noticeable. So if that's an aircraft that you enjoy flying, definitely bring on the heavy division as your co-pilot here, and I think you'll enjoy that experience significantly more. Obviously, we could not do a video without bringing the FlyByWire A320X. This is a completely free version of the A320. It adds a completely separate aircraft to the list. So you'll have the default A320neo, and then you'll see the FlyByWire A320 on your aircraft list. For those of you who by some chance have not heard of the FlyByWire A320, it is darn near a full-featured aircraft. They took the default aircraft initially and just started enhancing it, and then it became its own aircraft. And just about every single button, switch, toggle, etc. is functional in the aircraft. It has a custom fly pad where you can control configuration of the plane itself, as well as some customization options, everything from displays to unit measurement and realism timing, as far as, IRS alignment time, fuel time, things like that, can all be adjusted, as well as having a bunch of different tools and integrations such as SimBrief, having your flight plan ready and available in the cockpit itself for your viewing, making that programming of the MCDU that much easier. And that I am barely scratching the surface on the A320. It is the basis of where I made my full flight tutorial guide. Was based on the FlyByWire A320, and they continue just to amaze me. It's going to be a very big battle, in my opinion, between who comes out on top, the Phoenix A320 or the FlyByWire A320X. Now, I think in the initial release, the Phoenix may take it for a minute, but I don't think they're going to hold it for very long. And the beautiful thing, again, about FlyByWire, this is completely free. It is an absolutely free of charge aircraft, and the features, if you don't believe me, give the default A320 a flight and then jump into this one. You're going to find yourself in a whole different bag of worms. And the documentation that they provide for free on their website is also extremely fantastic and very, very detailed. And that, and combined with some of the other resources that are available online, such as my A320 guide that can be found on Patreon, between the tutorial videos, the A320X is just a must-have in your flight hangar. Even if you're sort of on the fence with commercial flight, if you're going to go that route, give this one a shot. Next was an aircraft that I never thought would reach my list, but that is the Cessna 208 Grand Caravan with the improvement mod. As long as you have the improvement mod attached to it, it turns this aircraft into a beautifully free addition and improvement to the Microsoft Flight Simulator. The default Caravan is definitely lacking a lot, and in my opinion is an aircraft that just isn't fun to fly because there are so many issues in comparison to a real-world pilot's operational handbook. However, as long as you have this mod installed, it takes that aircraft and turns it into something that you must have. If you don't believe me, just take a look at this massive changelog of all the different development changes that have been done to this aircraft to bring it closer to a real-world Cessna 208 and really enhance that simulation experience. And again, this mod is completely free of charge, and the aircraft comes default with the Microsoft Flight Simulator. So again, a free improvement to the aircraft, and this literally turns us into just a completely different bird. There is no comparison between the default and the improvement mod here that is available for free. Next on my list that had to hit the top 10 is the Bonanza G36 with the improvement project. Again, it takes the default, well, actually not anymore. Now it is actually a separate installation. So it used to be a modification of the default Bonanza G36, and now it is a complete installation of its own. So you'll actually have two G36s in your installation or in your hangar, and the one you want to make sure that you grab is the improvement project. It even has a hanger up in your toolbar that you can both record the flight hours of the aircraft, which are tracked. You're going to have to do maintenance on it. This is a project that has been consistently developed and brings both a massive improvement modification to the aircraft itself, as well as the external features that I was just mentioning, such as spark plug fouling. If you don't set your mixture correctly, you can actually damage the plugs, and you'll see some performance degradation as you continue to fly if you continue in those standards. And then you have to actually use the hanger to repair said spark plugs. Now, I don't know if all of that functionality is there yet, but I do know the hanger is available now, and it is also now tracking the total flight hours on the aircraft. And eventually you're going to have to hit, I believe it's the 1,000-hour inspection period, if memory serves, might be 100-hour, I can't remember off the top of my head. But they're really putting a lot of immersion into this project, and I wanted to make sure it definitely sees the light on this channel. If you guys have not tried this out and you love the GA aircraft and you love the Bonanza G36, I'm telling you, grab this right now, and you're going to have a completely different experience than anything you've flown in the G36 as of yet. This is a really, really cool add-on. The G36 is one of my favorite general aviation aircraft. There's just something about it. I love the exterior design of the aircraft, and with the improvement project, you have the power and performance that you would expect from a Bonanza, and it just really, really, it's a cool little project. I got to tell you, the hanger thing threw me off, and the more I messed around with it, the more I really dug it. So well done to the project developers, and I hope they continue their work. Stepping into the first slot of our helicopter development, I still stand firm that the Rotor Sim Pilots Robinson R44 Raven 2 is by far, I still think, the best freeware helicopter that is available for Microsoft Flight Simulator today. Now, it has a close runner-up, which we're going to talk about at the end of this video. But for someone who is new to helicopter aviation, someone who is really into learning how to fly a helicopter, who wants something that's going to be challenging and yet more forgiving than some of the other birds out there, the RSP-44 is the way to go. The textures are absolutely wonderful. It's a beautifully done aircraft. I've been following this aircraft since its initial conception, or I should say release on for Microsoft Flight Simulator, not conception, but release. The changes that it has gone through are night and day. I wish I still had an original version of the RSP-44, because I would totally show that right now just so you guys can see the comparison between the two. It flies wonderfully. Like I said, you get the option of a little bit of challenge and difficulty in that learning curve of learning how to fly a helicopter without flying something that's literally going to take your life out of you and drive you crazy trying to figure out how to fly it. It's a very, very gentle step into helicopter aviation, and with a perfectly done model. I really, really enjoy flying this aircraft. It is so well done. It also works with the PMS 530 and I think the GTN 750 avionics systems that are available as well. They do integrate with the aircraft, as you can see on that top display there in the screenshot. That is not a requirement, but it does integrate with it. So again, having more features available depending on what your current resource availability is when it comes to the avionics systems, you just get even further customization and choice when using the RSP-44. This aircraft is updated quite regularly, and it keeps up with the sim updates. He actually had the 1.28 was released before sim update 8, and its purpose was to make sure the aircraft was compatible with sim update 8. So he stays on top of the updates. The modeling is fantastic. The flight model is great. The experience of flying the helicopter is wonderful. Definitely something you want to have in your hangar. Anyone who's been watching my channel for more than 5 seconds knows that my top dog here is definitely the TBM 930 improvement mod. I love the TBM 930. I always compare it to flying a Lamborghini. It's sporty, it's gorgeous, it's slick, it's just got that hot rod look to the aircraft. And with the TBM 930 improvement mod, you get both flight model changes, performance adjustments to make it closer to operating like the pilot's operational handbook would, as well as some really awesome exterior features and just immersion aspects, such as lighting control now from the overhead panel like it should, the doors opening, cargo bays opening. Now, to some people that may be something silly and like, I don't care about that, but for me, I love when you can control things like the doors and things like that, especially as a content creator. It just adds one more feature to it. And then being able to take your camera to the back and set up your different camera views from the wing views, and then closing the doors. Like I said, it really just brings the entire aircraft together. I think I can speak for most of the community that every time there's a sim update that breaks it, we all just go into a massive depression mode when our TBM 930 isn't available. So thank you to Mix Mugs for all of his work. By the way, guys, please make sure to check out the Mugs Discord channel. I'll try to remember to put a link to it down in the description below, but I think he's actually got it Yes, right here. So please do me a favor and check this out. Muggs is looking for the possibilities of getting new work out of his country, given everything that's going on. He is over in, unfortunately, that part of the world that's right now in a bit of turmoil. I'm not going to bring attention to it, but you guys know where I'm talking about. And he's interested in looking for work. So if you guys can please, if you're into the computer programming or development, I believe is what he does, please make sure to check out his Discord channel and see if maybe we can help him out, because he's definitely done wonderful things for the community. If I could, I'd definitely hire him. But anyway, I just wanted to toss that out there as he posted on his Discord channel, so I wanted to make that announcement as well. But thank you so much for the continued work on the TBM 930 mod. This is by far my favorite aircraft. If you'd like something maneuverable, sporty, fast, absolutely ridiculously overpowered, and fictional, you have the Vertigo. The Vertigo is a fictional aircraft development. It was done by the Got Gravel developer, who is now part of Got Friends, that just recently released the Egli Optica EA7. But this Vertigo is completely free of charge. It is faster than you know what. I think you can get to just shy of 500 knots in it. Extremely maneuverable, can climb like a bullet, jumps off the runway, and at the same token, if you just want to take a quick cruise in it, it is also perfect for that as well. Its large view canopy makes it really nice for sightseeing and tearing tail through in canyons and things like that. It is a great little aircraft. Again, it is fictional, but you wouldn't know it by the flight model itself. It just seems like you're flying a rocket, but yet flies like an airplane. The flight model, it's really hard to say it's so good when knowing that the aircraft is fictional, but it performs the way it looks, if that makes sense. It looks like a nasty, mean Turner grip it and rip it, and that's how it flies. But without being unrealistic. It will bleed air like crazy. Depending on the turns that you make, it snaps very well. At the same token, if you do something stupid, it'll put you in the ground. So I really enjoy this aircraft. It is a ton of fun, and it is inspired by a real aircraft here, as you guys can see up here in the description. The aircraft itself is fictional, but a ton of fun to fly. I just can't stress that enough. It is a blast in VR. In VR, put your VR headset on, get in the cockpit of this thing, and take it low. Trust me, scrape the treetops in this thing in VR at high speed, and mercy, you might wind up with some vertigo. And last on our list of top 10 free aircraft brings us yet to our second helicopter of the day, and that is going to be the UH1 Iroquois. That is a work in progress, but this developer has done a fabulous job. TAG 44, again, this is another one that I've been following since its release. And I will say that this latest release, Beta 1.3, took this aircraft to a whole new level. Everything from interior to exterior textures were completely redone and really made a big difference. And I'm going to tell you guys something real quick. If you are a fan of the DCS World UH1 Huey, if TAG 44 continues on his path, I think the flight model is actually going to be more realistic than the DCS one. I actually flew the DCS UH1 a couple days ago and found it to be almost too easy in comparison. Now, that's a little hard for me to tell, as I've never flown a real world UH1, but by reading some of you guys' comments who are experienced in the Huey, it sounds like this aircraft may be more on the realistic side than the DCS version. Many real world pilots have commented that the DCS UH1 Huey needs, the flight model definitely needs an update and is being left behind, that this one is definitely well on its way to meeting the real world aircraft. It has a ton of features, customization features, such as you can see here. If you're doing a medevac or life flight, you can have all of that texturing done in the background, so you can actually just flip a switch, and next you know you've got patients, you've got medical personnel in the back seat. Or if you're doing a cargo run, if you're doing a combat run here, you guys can you can see that you can switch to the military configuration here. Just a ton of options that are just real easy to switch to. Most of them can be controlled just by a switch down and on the pedestal that just sort of cycles through the different options. It really really has come to life. And that, like I said, the last release, beta 1.3, the developer outdid himself and really brought an amazing helicopter to the simulator. I am so stoked with this one. It almost took the #1 spot when it comes to helicopters, but I think for a learning sake, I think the RSP R44 still takes it. But this was one I was telling you guys that was a very close runner-up. This was a hard decision for me to decide which one was actually better than the other. And I think from a learning standpoint, I would say the R44. However, if you're already comfortable with it and you just want to fly something that's badass, and again, this is another aircraft that I recommend scraping the treetops with. Take it low, get down into some canyons with it, play some CCR in the background, and I guarantee you'll absolutely love the experience of flying this helicopter. So I hope you guys have enjoyed this quick series, my top 10 of freeware aircraft and aircraft improvements. And let me know if there's any that you think that should have made the list that didn't. I'd love to hear from you guys down below, as always. And be sure to stay safe and healthy, and I'll see you in the next one.